Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left come to try to be reasonable. And listen to this. I got my Christmas gift early this year, the chance to discuss affordability on a daily basis, because it is a crisis that is painfully evident everywhere except on social media, right? Because there it's about Epstein photos and playing clickbait conspiracies with the January 6th bombing case or Charlie Kirk's assassination, right? Because if you can get paid for saying it, you say it on digital media, right? That's what they believe should drive the news cycle. But thanks to President Trump taking the affordability tour, I get to distract from the distractions. And it turns out that looking through the lens of affordability, this Christmas is this is going to be a Christmas to remember for some. But the question is, in what way? For this administration, this is going to be a Christmas that they're going to want to forget, all right? Why? Take a look at this telling AP poll. The headline: this holiday season is not a very Merry Christmas for consumers. 2/3 of Americans say they're experiencing higher than normal prices when it comes to holiday gifting. 4 in 10 are dipping into savings more than ever before. A study was done highlighting items from New York Magazine, their annual gift-giving guide, right? These are the things that you get every year. Everything's up across the board. The tea set, the dollhouse, the kid's camera, the Barbie, the Yankees cap, everything's up, all right? You get the point. A study found that on average, prices were up about 26% across the board, right? Frequently bought Christmas gifts. This is the reality. It's not going to surprise a lot of you, but what is surprising is that the president, uncharacteristically, is not connecting to the working man's woes. Instead, calling all your holiday concerns a hoax.
I said it the other day, and a lot of people misinterpreted it. They say, oh, he doesn't realize prices are coming down very substantially. But they have a new word. You know, they always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. So they look at the camera and they say, this election is all about affordability. But Democrats talking about affordability is like Bonnie and Clyde preaching about public safety. And they are really truly the enemy of the working class when they do it.
Hey, listen, you can define the problem any way you want, but don't say there's no problem, right? And if prices are coming down really, really fast, well, then there's no problem. So the president can have his string of excoriations and exaggerations and excuses. It reminds me of the famous line from Don Meredith. Who? Google him. If ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we would all have a Merry Christmas. The president is selling you that same kind of thing. If the tariffs work out, but if Biden hadn't done this, if you live near here, gas is down. But if you're looking at just these costs in this area and in this way, it's an A+++ economy. Mr. President, you are a master at messaging, but you are missing on this one. And here is the number I've never seen in examining Trump as a politician. No matter what was dogging him in the first year, and we all know what we lived through, right? He was never below 50 on his ability to run the economy until now. Trump's approval rating on the economy is in the low 30s with anywhere you look. 68% of voters, including 44% of Republicans, say the economy is in poor shape. Remember how reluctant MAGA is to say anything negative about this president. A new poll by Politico finds that 55% of Americans blame the president for high grocery prices. You can argue it any way you want, but perception is reality in politics, and the president is getting a lump of coal for these costs. And that is why you're hearing more of the MAGA elves getting yappy about being unhappy.
Listen, I like our chances in midterms, but let me put in perspective. Only 3 times in the last 100 years has the incumbent party been successful winning a midterm. Wow. 4 times in the last 150. We're facing almost certain defeat. The only person that could bring the nose up and help us win is the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Right. He has the most popular ideas. It's been his vision. And I think by the time the midterms come around, whether it be with the midterm convention or other items, I think you're going to start, people will understand and realize all the good that he's doing.
Now, by the way, nobody's playing that full bite. They're all playing a little bit just to make it seem like this guy is totally going bad on Trump. I wanted to give you the proper context. Because even in proper context, they're having misgivings, and that's the RNC chair, all right? Not some chooch interviewing for somebody on the street, all right? That's like a big player right there. To be showing any kind of weakness is unusual. But let me turn it around, okay? There is a gift in this grinchiness. The president now knows, okay? Neither MAGA nor the majority will be deceived on this issue. Affordability is the mandate for the midterms. If President Trump stops fighting the facts, this is his chance to show that he can take on the real enemy. Not Venezuela, healthcare costs. That's the big bad guy in the room, okay? Not just extending subsidies, not just some gimmick like personal health savings accounts. Those are Band-Aids on bullet holes, okay? The real affordability fight is taking on the big dogs who throw the big dollars at both parties and are calling the shots that make our health care basically twice what any other country spends. Now, I've been doing this a long time. I know how easy that is to say and how hard it is to do. It is daunting. The leaders in both parties are well paid. They all get millions from the healthcare lobby. Millions, okay? But remember, the signature Trump promise, only I can do it. Only I can go against the big money. Only I can drain the swamp. Only I can make the big players come to the table. Mr. President, this is the moment. All right, now, I want to talk more about costs, and we're going to do it later in the show. But I want to start with a big breaking story that has a coach of one of the top college football teams paying a huge price for some bad decisions, okay? Now, former University of Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore was arraigned today, charged criminally with breaking into his girlfriend's home and making threats, all right? According to prosecutors, Moore, who's married with 3 kids, had been in a relationship for several years with a female employee. I think it was his executive assistant or something. She ended things with him on Monday. Moore pursued. She panicked. She told University of Michigan officials. 2 days later, they arrest Moore. Afterwards, he goes to his now ex's home as the now ex-coach, barges in through an unlocked door, that may be a fact in the upcoming litigation, we'll see, grabbed 2 butter knives, pair of scissors, reportedly said to her, I'm gonna kill myself, I'm gonna make you watch, my blood is on your hands, you ruined my life. She called 911, here's a taste of the dispatch.
The caller told her there's a male at the location and now it's attacking her. The state's been stalking her for months. The person she's on the phone with, that's one grabbed a knife, threatened the caller, and then ran, threw the knife down. He calls S1's wife in Ann Arbor saying that the subject is suicidal. Rover's losing his job today.
Man, they got to get better people in terms of how they record those calls. So, look, here's my take, all right? I don't care about his love life. I don't care about what happened. They're going to litigate it. They're going to figure it out. Thank God nobody was hurt. To me, it is a window into a wacky world of way too much money and excess. That's why I asked my friend, the legend, Hall of Fame broadcaster Bob Costas, to come in to talk bigger picture of what money has done in terms of introducing madness into college sports. My brother,
how are you?
Thank you for
Good
the
to
gift
see you,
of being
CC.
here. I love being with you.
In this case, obviously, Sherrone Moore has some serious personal problems. And even if all the money that may be turning college sports upside down were half what it presently is, I think Sherrone Moore's situation might very well be the same. Or if it was twice what it presently is. So we shouldn't take this necessarily as emblematic of anything, because this seems uniquely awful and seems to be more about his personal drama than about what's affecting college sports overall. But what is affecting college sports overall, at least from where I sit, is that it's becoming transactional instead of emotional. Look, I'm not naive about this. There's always been hypocrisy and cynicism and money and some corruption in sports. But you could believe essentially in the integrity of the competition, and you could believe that those you were rooting for cared as much about your team as you do. Now you've got to completely compartmentalize. You're a fan. It's your alma mater. You love, in the case of Michigan, to go back to campus, to go to the big house, 100,000 every time. Only a couple of years ago, they go 15-0 under Jim Harbaugh. They win the national championship. There's all kinds of good feeling around it. But you're going to have to put all that aside, not just there, but at many other places when you realize that these players, and I'm not saying they're bad young men, they're not, but they take the NIL money, there's a transfer portal, you as a student, you know, you're there with your pom-poms and your alumni jacket and everything, you went there for 4 years. You got a degree. These guys could, in theory, and some of them actually do, play for 4 or 5 schools, so they're literally one and gone in many circumstances. How do you, there's absolutely no alignment. You always had to be skeptical about it, but at least you could kid yourself that most of these kids are student athletes, and maybe some of the kids at the back end of the roster actually are, because they're not getting the big NIL money, and they're not looking to the next school that's going to pay them even more. But this has become so transactional and so cynical. My alma mater is Syracuse. Now, Syracuse football is pretty bad right now.
Yes, it is.
But if someone asked me to pay into an NIL fund, I would sooner pay to almost any other aspect of my alma mater than the athletic department. Maybe some people there hearing this would get mad at me. I mean, I love it when Jim Boeheim's teams went to the Final Four and all the rest. I like going back to campus. But this is so detached from any actual, honest relationship between academics and athletics that you just have to basically say, screw it, I don't care. All I want is to watch the game, bet on the game, hang out with my friends, have a few beers, and I'll forget about the rest of it.
All of that is losing the betting on the game right now because it's a extension of the money culture. 2 things. One, this is classic Americana. Overcorrection.
Yes.
Right? You were exploiting these kids. You weren't really giving a lot of them educations. They were getting hurt. They weren't making it to the next level. You were making all your money off the bowl games. And now this is the correction, which is an overcorrection. We do the same thing all the time. Second, I see Moore as instructor for this one reason. They knew about the relationship. Now, this is not the first time they knew about someone making Ashramedica on the side and they let it go. But when you have $5 million and then $13 million coming this guy's way, you're going to look at it through a different lens. And the amount of money in the game has to corrupt the game. But the question becomes, is there any kind of middle ground? Or is this just like everything else in our society that's just going to be swinging wildly back and forth?
I'm not an expert on exactly how this would play out. There are antitrust issues, but apparently the best way to come to some sort of sanity here and equilibrium is if Congress steps in and there's legislation that says, here's how this goes, here are the limits to how much can be spent, here are the conditions under which that money can be spent. You know, I've always felt, and maybe this is just too idealistic, but no one should get into any university on an athletic scholarship who couldn't plausibly get into that university if the basketball or football program or whatever didn't exist. But that's just...
You'll never have a competitive team.
Right.
Once in a while, you'll have a group of guys who learn a system and they can compete against better athletes.
And Princeton will go to the Final Four under Pete Carrill or something like that. And no one's going to unilaterally disarm. No. The other thing that might be helpful, and again, this is maybe too idealistic, it used to be, we both remember, freshmen were ineligible.
Yes.
You could be a dubious student or you could be Bill Bradley on your way to a Rhodes Scholarship. You couldn't play as a freshman, which meant that you had to establish that you were an actual student. You had to be eligible by the time you were a sophomore. If they reinstated that and then gave you 4 or even 5 more years of eligibility after that, that would be fine. But they're not going to do that. The other question is this, and again, who's asking this? I'll ask it here. Do any of these credits transfer? If a guy plays, and there are guys already who have played at 4 or 5 different universities, however many credits he accrued at University 1, does that carry over to University 2 and then University 3? Is he accumulating credits toward a degree? Is there, no matter how many years he's in college? Or is this all just a farce?
It is a farce. And it has been for a while. Now, are there exceptions that disprove the rule? Of course. And every once in a while, you'll be able to give me a much larger batch. But I just remember one legendary running back in pro football for the Vikings, Robert Smith, wound up going back to medical school.
Yeah, he did.
And becoming a doctor and all these things.
Yeah.
And it was like, see?
And then became a broadcaster.
There's one.
Yeah.
And great. He checks all the boxes. But the rule is, it's exploitative and which way it goes. I just read a piece that really depressed me. And it used this scenario of NIL, name, image, and likeness money, as a metaphor for the demise of our democracy in general. That money corrupts everything it touches, just like our politics. That the money has ruined it.
And you know, in keeping with what you were alluding to earlier, what we thought NIL was, you know, these kids, some of whom come from underprivileged backgrounds, the scholarship isn't enough. If a kid can play the violin and he's at your university, he can play in the local orchestra if they want to employ him. Why couldn't that kid do an ad for the local car dealership? Why couldn't he make money off his fame as a football or basketball player or whatever sport it might be? That's what we thought it was. We didn't think that automatically the universities would come up with NIL funds and whatever Yahoo alumni want to send them hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars so that they can purchase some 18-year-old kid to come to play for that university, whether or not he actually cares about being at a university. That's what it's become. We thought it was a move toward fairness, not toward insanity. However, we should say this in fairness. Michigan is a public school, but taxpayer dollars do not fund the athletic department. That comes from media rights and people who want to pay to the NIL fund and that sort of thing. Now, when you add gambling into this, and again, 99.9% of these kids, or people in professional sports, we talked about this about a month ago, 99.9% of them could be uncorruptible. But by the sheer numbers and by the availability, you know, my dad was an inveterate gambler. He had to bet with.
They love to gamble.
Well, but they had to hook up with the mob. So those guys weren't Greek.
Wait a minute.
His bookie was attached.
Wait a minute. Is this bad for me now?
Yeah. His bookie was attached to the mob, and you had to go to Vegas. Now, it's right here, and every kid, every athlete, grew up with the phone, with social media. So it's foolish to think that some of them are not going to be entrapped by this.
Yeah, I'll give you a tidbit. And this is the problem with Costas, is you wind up talking to him. You remember when Connie Chung did that famous interview where she said, just between us, what do you think?
Oh, right.
And they were doing the interview. Costas is like that. He makes you talk like you're not on TV at the time. But I'll tell you something. I know a lot of guys who used to be in the life, okay?
Yeah.
And they tell me, and I haven't really touched it in reporting, but everything they've said so far has been true, that my assumption, which is the same as yours, is now it's all here. You're all FanDuel. You don't need bookies anymore. They say, we don't know how wrong we are. That the kids get hooked. People are getting hooked. Now they need leverage.
Yeah.
And they are going, and that they are making money like they've never made before, and that the mob is all over.
So this leads them to the mob. This leads them to the kind of guys my dad used to bet with decades ago.
I'll front you some money. I know you're just having a bad patch. I know they tapped you out on the credit card. I know.
Right.
I'll give you some leverage. But just get a few more guys. Come to me. Tell them to come to me. And all of a sudden, you got to sit.
That's what may have happened in the poker thing.
That's exactly
that went on with some of the NBA guys.
Exactly what this guy told me, and then that wound up being exactly what the investigation is.
And then when you add the prop bets, which are the easiest thing to fix. Now, MLB is apparently moving toward eliminating any wagering on prop bets. But until that happens across the board, that's the easiest way in.
And yeah, because the small bets are the most addictive. By the pitch, by the event.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you can, look, but nobody likes rules in this society. So as soon as you start trying to put regulations on it, I mean, look, you know, not to make a crazy segue that we'll talk about another day, but I'm talking so much these days about healthcare costs because nobody wants to touch them. Why? Because that game is rigged, and it's rigged by the big boys with the big money.
And you know, no matter how cynical we may have become or skeptical because of various scandals or things that chipped away at our idealism about sports, one thing you could generally count on was the integrity of the competition itself. That's the only thing they have to sell. Otherwise, they might as well be the WWE. That they might as well be that. Now, we're in a conspiracy-minded nation and world. There were always people who thought, let's say Sacramento was playing the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals when the NBA was on NBC, so I remember this. Fans in Sacramento were sure that the officials and the league office wanted the Lakers to win so that they'd play in the finals, get bigger television ratings. Whether that was true or not, they believed it. Now, when you throw gambling into the mix and people are losing their bets, or the line swings a little bit, doesn't really change the outcome, but it does change the line, then that just fuels it. And 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have this to complain. Now on social media, it goes all over the place. This game was fixed. This line was fixed. This guy purposely did or didn't do that. And it just poisons the well.
It's all related, too. And that's why I love talking to you, Bob Costas, because you knit it all together.
Merry Christmas, CC.
The best for you for the holy days. You're a great guy. You're a gift every time of the year. Thank you for being with me.
Can you be my personal PR guy?
You don't need one. You are a legend, my brother. All right, 4 minutes and 35 seconds. The one and only Bob Costas, you are welcome. All right, the other side of the value spectrum in our society, Epstein, the Epstein files. Is this about new facts, or is it going to be a fiasco? I got to tell you, I don't know. I don't know. House Democrats released photos of Jeffrey Epstein with, names, Trump, Clinton, Bannon, Gates. Now, we know these names. We know they knew him. Why are these faces blacked out around them? The answer, as far as I can tell, may make you as upset as it made me. Next. Bobby, thank you. Release the Epstein files. Release them all. That's all I've ever said. Now, do I think that there will be people who do not deserve it who may be injured by this? Yes. Why? You'll see. You'll see next week. That's when the DOJ has to release the files, okay? So House Democrats like juicing this story, all right? Why? They say it's to help survivors. I am suspicious of that motivation. We'll get into it. They put out lots of photos today that they got from the Epstein estate. Did they advance our understanding? Not only no, but intentionally not. This picture here of Trump with these women, this is the big ticket. All over, you'll see this online. Why? We both know why. It's the blacked out faces. Why are they blacked out? The Democrats explain the redactions by saying, our commitment from day one has been to redact any photo, any information that could lead to any sort of harm to any of the victims. So those women that are all around our now president, those are victims? Oh, no. We didn't say that, the Democrats say in response to the question. Well, then, who are they? What are you doing? Is this for the survivors, or is this for sport? And that's my concern, because everyone knows the people who have been exploited the most have always been the survivors. As soon as this became a political football, they were always the ones that were used and abused, and not just by Epstein. So let's get some perspective on what we're looking for here and what we must hold as a standard, all right? Epstein survivor, host of the podcast From Now On, Lisa Phillips, and an attorney representing Lisa and other Epstein survivors, Jennifer Freeman. Good to have you both. Thank you for joining me. Good to see you again, Lisa.
See you too.
So I'll start with you, Lisa. When you're looking at this and you're living this, what are you hoping in this release, and what is your concern?
Well, what we're hoping is to get more answers and to be able to connect the dots. This whole situation is very confusing, and without the full scope of information, pictures, call logs, videos of inside the house, who was there, all the information together, we won't be able to get a clear picture of what was really going on. So we're hoping for it all to come out by the deadline.
Well, but Lisa and Jen, I'll ask it to you, but we're just having a conversation here. We know it's not all going to come out. Jen, I've had multiple experts on who've said they've never heard of as big a redacting operation and spending the kind of money on redacting that was done here and completed in March. So we know it's not everything, right?
It's not everything, but hopefully it's something very significant. For example, we brought a lawsuit on behalf of Maria Farmer. Why? Because Maria Farmer in 1996 reported Epstein and Maxwell to the FBI. And what did they do? As far as we can tell, absolutely nothing. We want answers, and those documents should tell us what they did. That should be significant. That's not about clickbait. That's really about getting answers.
Absolutely, but you just said the magic words there also, right? And I'll give this back to you, Lisa, as being, a denizen of the digital world now, right? And understanding what sells out there, even on this story. we are expecting exposure of other people who abused or knew. And what makes that reasonable is I've never heard of a trafficking scheme that involved one guy and his girlfriend and no one else was ever exposed to anything except this one. So I'm open to it, release the files. But do you believe that the list that supposedly Thomas Massie has of names of people, do you think that's going to come out unless he releases it on his own?
I'm not sure if it's going to come out or not, because there's so many people that are doing everything in their power to not release it. So, I mean, I'm not sure how to answer that question. All I've seen that's been released in these pictures are just trickles of information, parties, what things look like, who was buddy-buddy, but it doesn't really show actual evidence of what was going on and how involved those people in the pictures were.
Right. And also, look, you know this about me, but just to be clear for the audience, I know these things happened. That's never been a question for me, from my understanding of this. I do not have any doubt of these allegations, but it's about how much, how many, who. That's what we don't know here. And Jen, these pictures, again, to Lisa's point that she's making, you know, the Democrats say we care about the survivors. And there's, oh, so these are all survivors, and that's why you redacted their faces. Oh, no, we didn't say that. Well, then what are they doing? I mean, it does feel a little bit like gamesmanship there, does it not?
Actually, I think it's protective, though it's not clear whether they're victims or not. And certainly the worst thing to do is simply not redact anything and have a victim exposed. So if that's being careful,
unless that's what they want.
with that.
Unless that's what they want, right? I mean, if somebody says, I want to be known, I don't want to be hidden, I want to own this, I want agency in this discussion about what's being done.
And that is possible. But remember also where these photographs came from. They came from Epstein's estate, and they were subject to a very specific subpoena request. And those were images regarding what was going on at his property. And that's a that could be very well a very narrow set of documents. There are many more images and documents to be obtained, whether it's from not only the Department of Justice, but from the banks, from Steve Bannon's tapes, from many other sources. So this is not simply, let's just look at these 19 photographs.
100%, I'm with you. But this, you got to give, this guy had some reach. He's got Bannon giving him advice. He's talking to Democratic lawmakers. He's got Obama's counsel helping him out. He's got Michael Wolff helping him out. I mean, this guy, you know, he had some Rolodex. And Lisa, do me a favor. One, correct the perspective that I put out there about why people would want to be seen or not seen as survivors. And then I want you to help people understand why it's not as simple as saying, well, if you gave this list to Thomas Massie of people who you think knew, give it to me. Let me put it out. Help people understand the reticence on those 2 points.
Well, I believe every person in those pictures, every young woman, like you've seen, should have the face blocked out. Because if they're not someone who's a survivor, then people see their face, all of a sudden the media and everybody wants to ask them questions, and their life is just turned upside down. Then you have the people who are survivors, let's say they were abused at that party, or on another occasion, and then now all of a sudden their face is out there and maybe they didn't want to come forward. And so either way, abused or not abused, your face is out there, and it's not good. We get a lot of death threats and people you know, antagonizing us everywhere we go and online. So I believe that they did the right thing in blacking out those faces.
I mean, it does raise another question, though. I agree with what you're saying, of course, but the first point of, oh, this woman is not a survivor, but now you're going to ask her all these questions, doesn't that go for men who are in a lot of these photos, too, if they were just at a party?
Yeah, just because the men are at the party doesn't mean they're innocent. I've always said that. That's the reason why we need to see more evidence of actual people doing actual things at those parties and events.
Well, we just heard a Democrat say, Jen, we have a lot of tapes of people having sex, and we got to look through them and see what they are and what they aren't. Now, why the Democrats are doing that and not the DOJ, I don't know, but this has been wacky from jump, and we will stay on it to its conclusion. And Lisa, Jennifer, You will always have a platform here to make the case of what works for you and what doesn't and why. Thank you both for being with me tonight. We'll do it again. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, absolutely. Coming up, affordability is for real, period, okay? Everybody knows it now, no matter what the president or any podcast says, all right? The top concern should be healthcare costs. Why? They're the most out of whack, and at the same time, they are the easiest to deal with, in a way, if you want to take on the big dogs. Someone who does, a doctor, living the problem, does not care what comes with telling the truth about what she sees that must and can change. Next. Gas, groceries, housing, healthcare. What does the government have the most control over? Healthcare costs. Some of them are directly negotiated. They are lobbied heavily by the industry. Why? Because there's a lot of legislation involved. And the costs there are crushing us. They're growing faster than inflation. 4 in 10 Americans with insurance still carry medical debt. 4 in 10 Americans with insurance still carry medical debt. Costs are the problem, not access. Doctors see the problem up close. Dr. Jamie Seaman has decided to take on this problem as it savages her practice, and she sees it all around, and she's brave enough to talk about it. Doc, great to see you again. All the best to you and the kids and your husband for the holy days.
Thank you. Great to be here, Chris.
So when you hear about costs and why they can change, what do you see that others do not?
Well, something I have been saying for years, the cost of healthcare in the United States, the real answer, this real solution is that it doesn't value prevention. Preventative medicine, prevention of getting sick in the first place is totally undervalued in the system. But the costs are insane. We spend more money in the United States of America than any other country in the world, and the quality of our healthcare and our health in general is worse than many other countries. Part of it is the transparency of the prices. They're completely inflated. As an example, if somebody has a heart attack tonight, they're not going to stop by 4 or 5 different hospitals and ask which cath lab is the cheapest, right? They're just going to access the care. And this is all set by the institutions, by the insurance companies, by the hospitals. They have a master list of what they're going to charge for things. And depending on your insurance, if you have insurance or not, the price of that is going to be different. The charge master price for getting your appendix removed, Chris, is going to be $50,000. But Blue Cross and Aetna and United are all going to pay a different negotiated price that they've negotiated with the hospital system. And so there's not transparency to patients. A lot of doctors don't even understand our extremely complex billing and coding system. It's just gotten completely out of control.
So the easy answer, they say, is competition. All you need is just more competition. Do you believe in that? Because the business is going the other way. It's consolidating. But what is the but when it comes to competition?
Well, it is consolidating. For instance, hospital systems are merging. Private equity is now coming in and buying private practice physician clinics like my own. And that increases their profits 10 to 30%. And it does not increase the quality of healthcare that is coming back to the patient. So competition is good, but the whole system is a monopoly. The pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies, the pharmacy benefit managers, those are the people that are profiting. And the insurance companies are profiting billions with a B, Chris. We're talking a large amount of money. A lot of people say, that the doctors are, raking people over the coals. I can promise you, it is not the nurses and the doctors and the people that are actually providing the care that are benefiting in any way.
So give me the pushback on that, Doc. The doctors get paid more in this country than anywhere else. I mean, they're part of the problem. Yes or no, and why?
Well, what they've forced the doctors to do is this is a fee for service. So you are incentivized to be high volume and high procedure. The more patients that you can mill through the clinic, the more patients you can get through the hospital, in and out of the operating rooms with efficiency and do it quickly, the profit is higher. But, I went to medical school. I have skills and assets. I'm a surgeon. I have value that I can bring to the patient. And of course, we all deserve a paycheck for what we provide. But when you're talking billions of dollars in profits at a really high level, and my own premiums went up this year. I mean, for my family, my premiums darn near doubled this year. I get it. My own mother was a healthcare administrator. I know this problem through and through. And healthcare administration costs are almost 25 to 30% of our healthcare system. So just to administer the care that I provide to my patients, I mean, we're talking an insane amount of paperwork and clicking just to provide the care. It's just crazy.
So how frustrating is it to you to see that the state of play is whether or not to extend the subsidies when they're, I'm not saying we don't need the subsidies. I get how many people need the subsidies, but the reason they need them is because of the cost structure, and that's not even really part of the conversation.
You know, taking care of Medicare and Medicaid patients, obviously I see patients that come from all walks of life, but reimbursement is set by the government for Medicare and Medicaid, and then private insurance companies use those numbers to determine how much they will pay us. So every time the government starts lowering reimbursement for Medicare and Medicaid, it makes clinics like mine shudder a little bit because it's going to continue to just pinch our pockets as much as it can. Medicaid patients in the state of Nebraska, our office actually loses money administering care for these patients. So we're really, we call it moral injury, Chris. We came into medicine because we want to help people, but we're working in a system that just is, it's kind of sickening to look at the amount of profit that's being made off the backs of physicians, healthcare providers, and ultimately the patients, all of us, everybody listening.
Well, I'm staying on it, Doc, and I appreciate your bravery because let's be honest, it's not as easy to work within a system if you're talking about what's wrong with it. I appreciate you doing it, and I am here for it. You'll always get a platform on my show to discuss it, and I'm going to keep the issue up there. So thank you for being with me.
Keep working out, Chris. Stay out of the doctor's office.
Yeah, I need it. All right, I got the hint, Doc. I got the hint. Dr. Jamie Seaman, thank you very much. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. It's tough when a doctor looks at you and says, you better work out. Why is Trump helping Cheech and Chong? What? Why is Trump helping Cheech and Chong? The answer is actually no joke. Next. Listen, I love Cheech and Chong, but man, the stigma that dogs the medical marijuana movement. Let me be very clear. I don't think marijuana has any business being a Schedule I drug like heroin. Fentanyl is a Schedule II drug. Marijuana is a Schedule I. Can it be abused? Yeah. Is it stronger than it used to be? Yeah. But what are we even talking about here? That marijuana is in the same sentence as heroin. It's just crazy. Well, why is it? Stigma. No one knows that better than Cheech and Chong Global Holdings CEO Jonathan Black. The company sells a wide array of cannabis products. And this, by my analysis, goes for hemp as well, which has been targeted for profit, really, by Mitch McConnell. And now we'll see what Congress can do about it. But Jonathan, thank you for joining us. Let me get to the meat of the matter, okay? The president is open to reassessing whether or not marijuana should be Schedule I or Schedule III. What would the difference make if it were Schedule III?
I think it would be a big difference, Chris, and thank you for having me on. I mean, the difference, obviously, it would open up potentially interstate commerce. It would get rid of 280E, which is plaguing the industry on tax write-offs because it's a Schedule I. It would also open up medical trials and open up access to loans and banks as well, Chris. So it would open up the market much more so that we could provide relief for millions of people that are already using cannabis. Right now, you got 40 states that you either have a medical or recreational product in. We're in a lot of those states. So being able to open up this entire market would be just absolutely huge.
And let's forget about the hypocrisy of allowing cigarettes and alcohol to be legal in a way that marijuana isn't. The pushback is, oh, yeah, well, you and Jonathan, man, you're forgetting how much stronger it is now. And people are going to the ER because they're eating a whole gummy and they're only supposed to have a quarter of one. And they're getting mental illness from this stuff. And unfortunately, maybe it shouldn't have been a Schedule I drug back in the day, but now you really shouldn't change it. What do you say to them?
You know, it's funny, Chris, we were down meeting with Governor Abbott on the hemp side of the issue, and it turned out there was more calls to poison control about toothpaste indigestion by children than bad experiences with hemp and cannabis. So, you know, I think that there's a responsible use, and if you have regulation and standardized regulation, it opens up access and builds consumer safety. And that's just hugely important for this industry's credibility, you know, an ability to bank where you want to bank, to be able to see a product that you have trust in, consumer-facing product is huge. And so we've done that on both sides, on the hemp side and on the cannabis side. In the hemp side, we have great partners, you know, from Total Wine to Benny's to ABC selling our drinks. On the cannabis side, you know, we're in 3,000 plus dispensaries. and they play nicely together with each other. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've seen these products and the choice that people are making on what they want to consume, whether it's from a liquid format or if they want to smoke an inhalable format or a gummy format.
Right.
You've seen this,
And I'll tell you, and
you know,
who it is matters also, Jonathan. You and I both know this, but anecdotally, people who are dealing with mental health, and they have gotten off pharmaceuticals, heavier drugs that have a lot of interaction issues, and they use hemp, they use marijuana, CBD, THC combinations, and they're worried they're going to lose access to it.
Yeah, and we're worried too now. I mean, it was a really weird situation, Chris. You saw hemp with the Mitch McConnell bill. Oh, there's a great picture of our product. Hemp with the bill, with the continuing resolution bill, get banned, and we're on the clock for 360 days to get some regulations passed. And then on the flip side of that coin, you have Trump talking about descheduling to Schedule 3 and instructing the DOJ and the DEA to make that possible. So it's very weird. Consumers are very confused as to what's going to be there and what's not going to be there and when it's going to be there or not.
Yeah.
We're working on both situations. We've always been committed to change. You know, when Tommy and Cheech brought us in here, myself and Brandon, to run this company, it was to bring to the people, you know, that cannabis stigma is wrong, right? Like, you can work out, you can make music, you can relax. Like, it's not something where you have to be couch locked
100%.
or rob a bank.
100%. Anything can be abused, anything can be used. Jonathan Black, thank you very, very much. Appreciate you. I'm here for the discussion. Have a good holy days.
Thank you, Chris. You too.
Be well. We'll be right back. I just noticed that my hairstyle is kind of a poor man's Leland Vittert. I think they're trying to make me look like our ace, but they failed, my brother. They failed.
Duke Cannon Anchorman Pomade. It is the secret to everything.
Is that what you use? I use his soap.
Yes. Yeah, well, see, get the pomade. I'm going to send you. Now I know what to get you for Christmas, Cuomo.
I'll take it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.